Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some fascinating excerpts today from The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
That's right, a cornerstone of American literature.
And our mission, really, is to get inside Huck's head. We want to explore how he, as this young, very practical kid, sees things like civilization, freedom, and, what's right and wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about that tension, isn't it? Between society's rules, what Huck calls being civilized, which he's pretty cynical about, and his own gut feeling, his search for something, well, real, something authentic.
Yeah, so we're trying to unpack what society tells him is good versus what he actually finds to be, you know, genuinely good through his experiences.
And it kicks off right away with the Widow Douglas and Miss Watson trying to tame him, basically.
Right. The first thing he bumps up against isn't some big moral issue. It's just being uncomfortable. And these rules that seem totally random to him.
It's the structure versus, actual usefulness. You see it immediately with the clothes. He complains they make him sweat and feel all cramped up.
That's such a physical reaction to being civilized.
Totally. And the food. That's maybe the best symbol. He can't stand polite dining where everything was cooked by itself.
He wants the barrel of odds and ends.
Yeah.
Where, as he puts it, the juice kind of swaps around and the things go better. It's like for him, mixing things up is just common sense. Separation feels forced.
And that very practical view, it just carries straight over into how he looks at religion and education. Miss Watson tries teaching him about Moses.
But Huck checks out mentally the second he hears Moses has been dead a considerable long time.
Yeah, if it's not immediate, not relevant now, he just can't see the point. It has no currency for him.
Okay, but where does he first clock the hypocrisy in all this, if it's meant to be about being proper and clean?
Smoking versus the snuff. That's a classic. Miss Watson lectures him that smoking is a mean practice and wasn't clean.
Yeah.
But then, she took snuff too. Of course that was all right, because she done it herself.
Uh-huh. Right. And Huck, with his kid logic, just sees it plain as day. The rules aren't about principle. They're about who gets to make them and break them.
Exactly. Which makes his whole reaction to the concept of heaven even more telling, maybe a little funny.
Oh, yeah, when she describes it as harps and singing all day, forever.
He's just like, nope, not for me. Especially when he finds out Tom Sawyer probably won't make the cut.
He literally decides his eternal fate based on whether his friend will be there. Loyalty over theology every time.
And prayer. He gives it a practical test drive. Miss Watson says pray for what you want, so he tries praying for fish hooks. He already has the line, needs the hooks.
Makes perfect sense to him.
But nothing happens. So his conclusion, there ain't nothing in it. It fails his basic empirical test. The whole idea of spiritual gifts seems fuzzy and unhelpful.
He does try to sort of differentiate, though, doesn't he, between the widow's version of God and Miss Watson's.
Yeah, he figures he has a better shot with the widow's providence, which seems, kinder. Miss Watson's version just sounds harsh, helping others, never thinking about yourself. Huck just doesn't see the immediate payoff for him.
It's pure cost-benefit. What's in it for Huck Finn?
Which, interestingly, is what kind of pushes him away from that structured, civilized world and, unfortunately, right towards Pap.
Ugh, Pap. Talk about a contrast. If the widow's world is restrictive, Pap's is, well, it's freedom gone totally rotten.
He's like the dark reflection of civilization's failures. Just looking at him tells you everything. The long and tangled and greasy hair, those eyes shining like he was behind vines.
And that fish belly white skin, it's a picture of pure degradation.
And his politics. Just drunken, paranoid entitlement, ranting about the government, keeping his money from him, furious that a black man can vote. His idea of freedom is tied up in his own sense of superiority, not any kind of principle.
But it's not just Pap who fails here. Society's attempt to fix him is just as revealing, isn't it? The new judge trying to make a man of him.
Oh, that's such a key scene. Pap puts on this big show, crying, promising he'll change his ways.
Everyone in the room is crying, shaking his hand.
Yeah.
It's this big, emotional, public redemption moment.
Right. But it shows how shallow that kind of sentimental approach is. It lasts, a few hours? Then he trades the judge's coat for whiskey, gets drunk, breaks his arm. The whole reform collapses instantly.
And yet, Huck says that, for a while, minus the beatings, he actually preferred living in that cabin with Pap.
He did. He called it kind of lazy and jolly, laying off comfortable all day, smoking and fishing, and no books nor study.
It shows you just how much he hated the structure, the forced learning. That felt more oppressive to him than the dirt and, well, the relative freedom of Pap's life, at least initially.
But then Pap gets dangerous. truly dangerous, and Huck has to use that incredible practical mind again. This time to escape both Pap and the widow's world. He fakes his own death.
And the details are just amazing. It's not just running away, it's a calculated plan. Sawing the log to get out.
Shooting the wild pig, using its blood on the axe.
Dragging that heavy sack of rocks to the river, making sure it looked like a body was dragged. Easy to see that something had been dragged over the ground.
And the master stroke. The cornmeal trail. Ripping the sack and leading a false trail away from the river, towards a lake. He knows how people think, how they'll assume the killer fled inland.
It's pure logic and observation, winning him his freedom. Radical self-determination through cleverness.
But then he meets up with Tom Sawyer again, and all that brilliant practical ingenuity just gets railroaded by Tom's obsession with doing things by the book. Literally.
Oh, Tom's rules. It's such a clash. Huck is all about results. Tom is all about style, ritual.
Exactly. Ritualistic action versus result-oriented action. Remember the gang trying to ransom people?
Yeah. Tom insists they have to do it. Yeah. And when Huck asks what ransom even means, Tom's just like,
I don't know. But then he says, blame it all. We've got to do it. Don't I tell you it's in the books?
the book is the ultimate authority, even over common sense or, actually knowing what you're doing.
And you really see how absurd that gets later. During the plan to free Jim, it's the same principle, just magnified.
Oh, absolutely. Huck knows they could just, unlock the door and walk out.
But no, Tom needs shovels dug with case knives, a pen made from a pewter spoon, and a brass candlestick.
Why? Why make it so hard?
Because, according to Tom's adventure books, that's how state prisoners do it. They use the hardest, toughest, troublesomest thing they can find, a simple goose quill. It ain't regular.
Regular according to the romance novels, not reality.
Exactly. The whole point for Tom is the difficulty, the performance, the adherence to these fictional protocols, like baking a rope ladder into a witch pie.
Instead of just using a perfectly good ladder they could make easily.
Or insisting Jim needs a coat of arms and has to write a journal in his own tears or blood. It's elevating these completely arbitrary, book-derived rules way above Jim's actual freedom and safety. It's civilization in its most ridiculously impractical, even boyish form.
And that kind of absurdity, that hypocrisy, it extends beyond kids' games into the adult world, Huck observes, right? Especially with things like cowardice and social pressure.
Definitely. You see it with the king and the duke, the con artists. They pull off these scams like the Royal Nonesuch play.
Which is just terrible.
Awful. But the people who get tricked, they don't rise up immediately. Instead, they protect their own pride first.
Right. That one guy yells, "We are sold. What we want is to go out of here quiet and talk this show up and sell the rest of the town."
Think about that. They'd rather trick their neighbors than admit they were fooled themselves. Saving face is more important than justice or getting their money back.
That fear of looking foolish, that individual cowardice, it really comes to a head with Colonel Sherburne, doesn't it?
Oh, powerfully. After he shoots the drunk, Boggs, in broad daylight, a mob forms. They want to lynch him.
Standard procedure in these stories, seems like.
But Sherburne doesn't run. He stands on his porch roof, shotgun in hand, and just dresses them down. It's an incredible moment.
He calls them out, doesn't he? Calls them cowards to their faces.
He dissects their cowardice. The average man's a coward, he says. He points out they need the dark, or masks, or they need to borrow courage from someone else, like that half-a-man Buck Harkness leading them.
And just by confronting them, by making them feel individually responsible instead of part of a faceless mob, he breaks them. They just melt away.
It's a brutal look at mob mentality versus individual accountability.
Yeah.
But then you get this contrast with Jim's perspective, which is so grounded, so human.
You mean like his take on King Solomon?
Yeah. Everyone talks about Solomon's wisdom, but Jim hears the story about threatening to cut the baby in half, and he thinks it's completely nuts.
Because why would you treat a child like that?
Exactly. Jim argues a man with millions of kids wouldn't value any single one. He'd as soon chop a jelly in two as a cat. It's a practical argument about value.
And his solution is so perfectly Jim.
Isn't it? Forget complicated rulings. A truly wise man would build a boiler factory.
I don't think he shut down the boiler factory when he wanted to rest.
It's wisdom based on practicality. Rest, valuing things properly, not status or showing off.
And that deep, practical humanity in Jim, it comes through most powerfully, I think, in that heartbreaking story he tells about his daughter Elizabeth.
Oh, man. That's tough to read. He talks about hitting her for not listening, for not closing the door when he told her to. And then
the door slams shut from the wind right behind her, and she doesn't even flinch.
And he realizes, oh, she was plumb deaf and dumb. And I'd been a-treating her so. That cry, that immediate devastating realization and remorse, it just lays bare his capacity for love and regret. It completely undermines the whole system that treats him like property.
Which leads us right into Huck's biggest moral test. The ultimate conflict between what he's been taught is right, the law, society's rules, and his loyalty to Jim.
His conscience is screaming at him. All that training from Miss Watson, from everyone, says he must turn Jim in. It's the law. Jim is property.
But Jim flips the script, doesn't he? When he realizes he's actually free, or thinks he is, he says,
I owns myself and I is worth $800. He states his own human value, his self-ownership, completely separate from what the law says.
and that has to weigh on Huck, this internal battle. It peaks when the slave hunters come along, right?
Right. Yeah, Huck is literally paddling off to betray Jim. He's decided he has to do the right thing according to society. He's sweating, feeling terrible, but resolved.
But then Jim says that one thing.
That one thing that changes everything. Used a best friend Jim's ever had and used a only friend old Jim's got now.
It just cuts right through all the rules and laws and shoulds. It makes it personal.
Instantly. It anchors the decision in loyalty and human connection. So when the men ask who's on the raft, Huck, he lies.
He tells them it's his pap, sick with smallpox, to scare them away.
He chooses Jim. He chooses friendship, his own practical code of loyalty, over society's law. And even though he says afterwards he felt sick for breaking the rule, for doing the wrong thing, he did it. He stuck by his friend.
So when you boil it all down, Huck's real education didn't come from Miss Watson's spelling book or Tom Sawyer's adventure novels.
Not at all. It came from the river, from Jim, from making these choices based on experience and loyalty, often against everything civilized society taught him.
He learned by rejecting the official curriculum, basically.
Pretty much. And that defines his final decision in the book, doesn't it? That famous last line.
I reckon I got a light out for the territory ahead of the rest because Aunt Sally, she's going to adopt me and civilize me, and I can't stand it. I've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go back to being civilized.
He's had enough. He's seen what it costs.
So it leaves you wondering, right? If civilization, as Huck sees it with its feuds, its mobs, its hypocrisies, its ridiculous rules like Tom's games, consistently produces this kind of nonsense and cruelty.
Yeah, is rejecting it the only way to maintain genuine personal integrity? Is heading for the territory away from the rules the most moral choice you can make?
Something to think about as you head out from this deep dive.